we're there. All right. I want to continue a discussion that started, it guess started a while ago, but that Kenny brought up yesterday, both by himself and then when you were on the program with him at 3:00 on D'Lo and KC.
Yeah.
And that's the whole trading Domantas Sabonis thing. And I bring this up because I think there's a bigger picture thing than Domas just in a vacuum. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of, and Kenny said it yesterday, like he's a good player, but it's just a matter of is he on his contract somebody you can build around? And I think it gets a little bit to the broader topic of, should the Kings tear this whole thing down? Should they rebuild? Do you tear it down to the studs and start over? Because I think if you're trading Domantas Sabonis, given what you are likely to receive in that deal, I think it represents a teardown of sorts, because I don't think you're going to trade him and get anything back that makes you better immediately. Whether that's draft compensation this year or rotational players, I don't think there's a version of the Kings where they're trading Sabonis and whatever realistic package they're going to get back involves players that make them better in the immediate and frankly in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, like I think the prime example I would give is this. The Sacramento Kings, and I think it's 2004 when this happens. They decide that Chris Webber's knee is never going to be the same, right? And so this is it's 2004. It's February 2000. No, it's 04-05 season. So it's February of 2005, maybe January. They realize that their attempt at a dynasty is over. Their run as being like a superpower is probably kind of coming to an end. And they looked at Chris Webber's contract and said, okay, look, like this thing isn't working and we're going to need to break this thing up. Right. And so they traded Chris Webber to the Philadelphia 76ers for Brian Skinner, Corliss Williamson, and Kenny Thomas. And they broke his contract up into 3 movable pieces. At least that's what you thought. They never were able to move Kenny Thomas. They got stuck with Kenny Thomas's $8 million, $9 million salary until he was no longer in the league. Corliss Williamson, again, expired. They got nothing for it. So in the end, they realistically got nothing. And the reason I bring this up is because I don't I get Kenny like having this strong take that it's time to move on from Domantas Sabonis. Like that's okay. But
yeah, the logic tracks for me.
Yeah. I mean, I get it, right? But I'm just gonna be like really honest with people. Like the Kings went years without having a star level player like Sabonis. And you can say, well, they had De'Aaron Fox. Like, okay, De'Aaron Fox made 1 All-Star team, and Sabonis made 2 All-NBA teams since he's been in Sacramento in 3.5 years or 4 years, whatever it is. Like, you're not going to get back another All-NBA player. Now, you could get back a player who might develop into an All-NBA player. We can't excuse the fact that, again, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was acquired as part of a gigantic package that included, the Clippers sending 5 first-round picks and Shai and other stuff to OKC to get Paul George. I just don't think, number one, that Sabonis has that type of market value,
right,
where you're going to get 4 or 5 first-round picks, and on top of 4 or 5 first-round picks, you're going to get some young players, one of which could develop into an All-NBA MVP superstar that's probably going to win the NBA championship. So why are you doing it then? Because if you're taking a step back, the step back is so heavy, and you're not a team that can go sign an All-NBA player as a free agent. You're not. That's just, it's never happened in Sacramento. And we can talk about, again, Vlade Divac, George Hill, and DeMar DeRozan, the 3 best free agents that have ever signed here in the 45 years the Kings, 40 years the Kings have been in Sacramento. So your step backwards isn't a step backwards it's starting over and hoping that you somehow blindly trip your way into another superstar, another star level player.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you got to draft well. It means you've got to, like, everything has to go right. And we've seen it go wrong so many times.
So I think like I said, this is tough for me because I know the right radio thing to do is to be like, no, you have to trade him, or no, you can't trade him. That's insane. I know that's the right radio thing to do, but I I'm on the fence. I see both sides of this, so I'm gonna step onto the Kenny side here, and the trade Sabonis side. I should say this is not Kenny Caraway is not by himself on this island, but I think when you say you'd be trying to back into another all NBA player, I think that's already what they're trying to do with Sabonis on the roster.
Okay.
Because I think if we're all in agreement that, hey, you know what, you probably have to find a player better than Sabonis and better than Zach LaVine if you're going to contend in the West, which is should be, or at least projects to be, a really difficult thing to do over the next handful of 5, 6, 7 years.
Yep.
And so I think what you're saying about if you trade Sabonis, because to me, trading Sabonis, it just is starting your teardown. I don't think there's a realistic path to trading Sabonis and then making the playoffs this year or in 25-26.
I don't think so.
At least that's where I land anyway. Just because I think, like you said, what you're getting back for him is probably a pick heavy compensation and salary filler. You're probably not getting like an awesome rotational piece where you're like, oh my God, it just unlocked everything for the Kings. I don't think it's there. I don't think that deal's going to be there. So you have to operate under the assumption that you're trading Sabonis for the future, for the next 2, 3, 4 years, or whatever span those picks are going to cover that you're getting back. And I get that, because if you're going, hey, you know what, Sabonis and LaVine, that duo, you're going to need to find another all NBA guy, a 1A to go with them to even compete. You're in a similar spot by trading Sabonis, and now, okay, you still need a 1A, but at least you're getting yourself assets. You're trading this player who you believe that, you know what, can't, in this window and where he's at and where the team is at, can't really build around him. So let's get something for him and try and start building around Keegan Murray and Keon Ellis, I guess, or Malik Monk and Zach LaVine, or whoever.
Yeah.
I get, like, if that's the direction you want to go, okay, but understand that that's domino number one toward the Kings being pretty bad for a while.
Well, I would even make this argument. It's pretty bad for a while, but there's no guarantee of good.
Yes.
Like that's the problem. You just went through 16 years of dreck, of horrific basketball, of some of the worst basketball in the league. You know, we talk about this I was 250 games under 500 as a beat writer in my first 12 years.
Jesus.
Like, so what exactly, I get the sentiment, right? But I also, like, my rebuttal is always going to be like, you have a top 15, top 20 player in the league, which means that there are at least 10 teams in the league who don't have a player as good as yours. And we can also, like, when you start stacking players on, you know, the fact that LeBron and Luka play on the same team, the fact that OKC has 2 all NBA players and Jalen Williams and Shea, and that the Celtics usually have 2 all NBA. So realistically, how many teams have a player that's better than Domantas Sabonis? And I know people get caught up in this, well, if Domas is your best player bit, but like, I don't
think that matters, though.
Well, I think it matters to a certain degree, but like, at what point do you just, like, throw everything out and say, oh, well, we only got to this point? Like, I think outside of one team in the Western Conference, Oklahoma City Thunder, I think the West is wide open. Like, I think you can make reasonable, smart moves and get yourself back in the conversation. I don't know if anyone in the next couple of years is going to find a way to get past OKC.
Sure.
It's going to be a team, and especially, like, I've made this point a couple of times when we talk about the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks built a team to to defeat the Boston Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did. They looked at who won the Eastern Conference, who's been the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference. They said, we've got to build a team to stop the Boston Celtics. Once you stop the Boston Celtics, but you still have another team to go through, and now that team you're not built to beat, you have trouble. I think when you look at Oklahoma City, they are built to beat anybody and everyone on every single night. They are not a team who's built to beat one team.
Right.
And I'd even say the Indiana Pacers are built to be themselves, to have this free-flowing, crazy offense, and they're just embracing being who they are, right? And realistically, that's who the Kings should have been 2 years ago. That might have been the fatal flaw to Mike Brown, is trying to convert them into something that they weren't, as opposed to just embracing the fact that they had the number one offense and how do we get even better, right? So now we get to this point where, like, I just feel like so many people are ready to bail, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's just you're probably going to have to be really, really ruthless.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to make savvy moves. But, I don't know. Like, if I'm the Kings right now, you are in a pickle because you have 9 first-round picks over the next 7 years. Can you get up to 12 first-round or 13 first-round picks over the next 7 years and rebuild this thing? The problem is that we've seen the horrible drafts, the draft where, you nail it with De'Aaron Fox at number 5, but you completely botch it with Justin Jackson and Harry Giles number 15 and 20. Like, this team could have had Bam Adebayo and De'Aaron Fox for a decade, and they just blew it, right? You get the year before, they had the number 9 pick in the draft. They traded to 13, pick up to 28, and Bogdanovic's contract. But you have 13, 22, and 28. Not one of those players is in the NBA. The 2018 draft, you completely blow with the number 2 overall pick. You come away with a guy who's hanging on to his NBA life by a thread in Marvin Bagley. When Luka Doncic and Trae Young and Jaren Jackson Jr. and even DeAndre Ayton are still, at least most of them are thriving. Ayton, at least, is probably the worst of the group. But, like, there is no sure thing if you have a ton of draft picks.
I don't think DeAndre Ayton's worse than Marvin Bagley.
No, he's not.
Okay.
No, he's better than Marvin Bagley.
Okay.
Yeah, but by what measurement?
Sure.
Like, yeah,
he plays. He starts.
He's going to get another contract. No, I mean they set him to the side most of the season. He used Klingon and these other guys. Yeah. So look, like, my point is, like, the starting over or trading Domas, or, if he's your first best player, you're not very good. Okay, what's the alternative?
So the alternative is you have tradable assets.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is you're pulling the plug on this now. Instead of going, hey, we're going to try and work this out with Sabonis, and maybe we make the right moves, and all of a sudden there's this contender in the West, and with Domas in some order of the hierarchy. They're a 45 to 50 win team, and they're just kind of around, and that's where they cap out.
Okay.
The argument is you just pull the plug entirely and start yourself at square one, so you're not ostensibly wasting the next 4 years to just try and be maybe competitive, because look how bad they used to be. Like, at some point, like, we're already seeing it. We saw it starting last year, that, hey, 48 wins was a benchmark to move up. 46 was not good enough. 40 certainly not good enough. Staying in this range, it gets old. And at that point, you're picking 12th, 13th every year. You're not doing anything substantial. I think the argument is you're pulling the plug, you're rebuilding, you're just starting over.
Okay.
And you want to do that ASAP. And that means when you have a good player who's like, hey, you know what, this guy could be valuable to someone else, and we can get something back for him and kickstart that rebuild now, instead of ostensibly wasting the next few years chasing a 6 seed.
Okay.
I think that's where just the general basketball team building and the way we've seen the NBA go over the last, God, I don't even know, 20 years. Like, yeah, you just, when you hit your ceiling, all right, we're done here. We're going to tear it down and start over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where this conversation kind of goes. Now, the question is, will the Kings do that? Let's go down that path. We'll continue discussing this. And the thought I can't shake about the NBA Finals, I've been trying to rattle this thought out of my brain.